Hello and welcome to Booktopia TV. My name's Jamila Rizvi and I'm an author based here in Melbourne, and today I am bloody thrilled to be in conversation with my friend Alice Zaslavsky, who is the author. I've been doing my weights for this, guys, but it's hard. Of this tome in Praise of Veg. Alice, first things first. It's an extraordinary cookbook and also an extraordinary doorstop / handbook.
Tell you what, Rizvi, carrying these books around, even signing books, lifting, I think my forearms are getting quite the workout.
Before we get into it, I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting today on the lands of the Wurundjeri and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and both Alice and I pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, as well as recognising that Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung people have been telling stories and sharing recipes and cooking together on this land for tens of thousands of years. So we join a very important tradition today, Alice. Let's start at the beginning. Like before this, where did your love of food originate?
I think it originated from a place where most people's love of food originated, and that's the family table. I was fortunate enough to have a family of foodies, although we would never call ourselves foodies. We were just a family that loved food. I grew up in the Soviet Union, so food was probably scarcer than one would expect. But what we did have, my parents and my grandparents made the most of. And growing up in Georgia, which is a country very well known for its food and wine and famous for its feasts, somehow they managed to make do and make beautiful, beautiful food. So I think I was always going to love food, but I think the extent to which I have embraced food as part of my life beyond just a passion as a career, and I suppose would you call it a profession or a trade or a craft? Whatever it is, I'm all in.
Now, you have also been a teacher in your life, and that comes through in Praise of Veg in a big way, because it's not just a series of recipes. It feels very educative. Is that important to you in the way that you talk about food, that you're teaching as well?
It is important to me, but not in the way that you think. My teaching informs my learning a lot more than maybe the way that I deliver material, because I think that a lot of the time when people start from a place of teaching people, it can be quite didactic, it can be quite instructional, and in that way, it's just really boring. So my teaching comes through in that the best teachers are the best learners. So I'm always looking to learn new stuff. And so in Praise of Veg to me is really just me conveying cool stuff that I've learned in a way that I know other people are going to find cool as well.
One of the things I love about you is that if I've run out of an ingredient, or if I even run out of the key ingredient, or I'm cooking for someone who can't eat something, you're so liberal with substitutes. You're not precious about the recipes that you've created. Is that part of a sort of an Alice Zaslavsky food philosophy?
Yes, it is. I'm so glad that you picked up on that. I would call my recipes more like serving suggestions than prescriptive, follow this to the letter, because we live in an age where we don't know what people's dietaries are. We don't know what people have in their pantries. All I want to do is remove every single barrier that's keeping people from cooking. So if that's, telling you that you can actually use some flour and bicarb instead of baking powder, then done. Why the heck not, honestly? And I actually really delight in it too. I love actually saying to people, you can still make this, just, shift a few things around, and chances are it's going to taste better too.
All right. So the big question comes, why vegetables? Why vegetables? Obviously they're good for us, but vegetarian cooking's everywhere. This is a vegetarian book. Vegetarian kind of is something I think a lot of us associate with having to do it.
Yeah. See me like do the board yawn. I think that's why. Yeah,
I get my greens in because I have to kind of attitude.
So boring, so joyless. I want to bring the joy back to vegetables. I think that as far as ingredients go, they are the most undervalued, much maligned group of ingredients, and yet there's so much you can do with them. They're inexpensive, which means that if you're thinking about removing the barrier of cost for people who are thinking about starting to cook, vegetables are a really great place to start. When you look at it from the perspective of dietaries, regardless of what your dietaries are, chances are you probably can still eat most vegetables, if not all.
Yeah.
And so I love vegetables personally, and that joy that I feel for them, I think can totally be amplified and extrapolated upon and shared with the world. So I didn't realize, I think, when I wrote the book, how much people were desperate and ready for that joy to come into their lives. But I can feel it now, and I do actually get the sense that we're at the crest of a wave, a real shift in paradigms for people in the way that they see vegetables, in the way that they embrace them, and in the way that plant-based eating is just taking over the globe. So, I love that I get to be a tour guide for people just discovering the joy of veg.
You're a plant ambassador. That's what you are. That's what you are, my dear.
Oh my God. Okay, I had Vegilante. I like that, but plant ambassador is pretty darn great. So both of those I'm happy for. I'll take any title, particularly if it's a portmanteau.
Indeed. Folks, if you don't already follow Alice on social media, she is Alice in Frames, and it is all punny food content, and it is content you want in your life immediately. Alice, talk to me. I'm going to try and do this in the camera, and I'll probably do it inartfully, but talk to me about the colours, because the book is divided into colours, kind of like my bookshelf. So talk to us about that.
Colours are another thing that really bring joy, and actually our minds are trained to see a rainbow of colours as something really healthful and nutritious and appealing, but that's totally not why I did it. I did it because I realised that if I did an A to Z book, then it would be a book that meant that a lot of places in the world that aren't A to Z wouldn't be able to read it, wouldn't be able to translate it. So colour is something that's universal. Beyond that, I also wanted it to be really accessible to people that are just starting out and might not know what a vegetable is called. So you certainly know that vegetable is purple. Go into the purple section and you'll find, it's an eggplant. And beyond that, what I didn't realise at the time, but I do realise now, and I'm so grateful to past Alice for doing, and past production, publisher Murdoch, the team at Murdoch were just like, great idea, and just kind of went with it. But it just makes it really easy to find recipes. So you can, if I want to make an eggplant dish, I just don't even need to go into the index. I just go into here and I go, oh, okay, I'm in the purple section. And then I just have to flip through past beetroot, yum, and bang, here I am. And for a close to 500-page book, I think that anything that makes it easier to use is just like, wah! So yeah, I don't know. I think I woke up one day and went, what if we just organize it by color? And I wonder if that was something that was channeled to me, that needed to be out in the world. You know how woo-woo I can get, Rizvi. So
you sure can. I am
all about it.
I'm feeling like you're like a recipe search engine. Do you know what I mean? Like I just put the color in and you give me a few different options and I can pick the one that I most want. We're going to get inside the book in a second, folks, but I'm obsessed with the front first. Alice Zaslavsky is a force of nature. Who said this quote, Alice?
I'm not quite sure, Jamila Rizvi. Could it be the Queen herself, Nigella Lawson?
Indeed. That's not a bad bet, mate. That is quite an endorsement for a cook.
Yeah. I darn near fell off my chair when I saw that email from my publisher saying that. I am a huge fan of Nigella's, have been for a very long time, have been fortunate enough to spend time with her on stage and off. And I could not have imagined that she would endorse the book, endorse my, what it is that I do and what it is that I bring. And I think the thing actually, because she then went on to make it her cookbook of the week in her cookbook corner. Am I even, pinch me, am I even, like, who even am I? What even is this? Are you Jamila Rizvi, or is this some sort of simulation? But what she said is that, what it is that sets me apart is my high-octane enthusiasm. And if I think back to my school days, that was something that made me feel different, and people kind of were annoyed by. Even in MasterChef, some of the fellow contestants were just like, hey, can you just chill out on the morning smiles and happy dances? But but I feel seen and I feel really valid. And I think that that enthusiasm is actually what comes through in this book. And even if you're feeling like your day's been really shiitake, this is a book that you can open to any page and it'll bring the smile back on your dial.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's absolutely true. And we know that it's not just Nigella who's a fan. It is a lot of Australian home cooks, because it's been absolutely flying off the shelves. I mean, there's like a book you're happy with selling well when you're an author. And then there's the moment when you sit there going, so many people have this in their life now. This content is clearly resonating because everybody is lapping it up. Why do you think that success has happened? Is it something to do with COVID, meaning that we're all spending a little bit more time at home, even though we're feeling relatively free and well, that we're spending more time at home and more time cooking for ourselves perhaps than eating out, and we want to do it well?
Definitely. Cookbooks are smashing it at the moment, and it's because more people are feeling like the kitchen is a place where they're more comfortable than they were before 2020. Yeah. So that's a real silver lining for me. I think the book itself is a real zeitgeist capturer, in the sense that more people do want to eat vegetables. That just goes without saying, but more people are committing to it. So 1 in 3 Australians have committed to eating less meat, which to infer, you would think that means that they're committing to eating more vegetables. And actually, this book is not a vegetarian book, because I know that a lot of people that are committing to eating more vegetables don't necessarily know how to go from like hot turkey to cold tofu, in one book. So this book gives you secondary cuts. It makes vegetables the hero and meat the garnish. It's kind of, that's very hip. And actually, Dan Barber, who's in the book with a quote about kale, he's a chef from Blue Hill Farm over in the US, and he wrote a book called The Third Plate, which will 100% be available on Booktopia to order as well. And he wrote that close to a decade ago, talking about the fact that it's time for us to move beyond meat and 3 veg and move towards meat being a garnish. And that's something that's stuck with me for so long. And I feel like I'm getting clearer and clearer on what that actually looks like and what that tastes like on the plate as well. And I don't miss it. I just don't miss having this big lump of animal protein on my plate anymore. And I just think that that's probably what's really cool to me, is that vegans and vegetarians can pick this book up and not say, oh, no, it's got bacon in it, so I'm out the door. They say, oh, okay, so there's some substitutions in here. I could use tempeh instead of bacon or whatever it is. So, I think that it's a real it's not an accident. I'm not going to pretend that this book is, oh, I'm so surprised that, it's hitting the mark. I've been in this space for long enough to know what it is that people want. And I've fielded calls from radio listeners on ABC Drive for 5 years about vegetables. I've talked on ABC News Breakfast about vegetables, waxed lyrical, tried to convince Michael to eat scud chilies, all of those things. And so this book is just like a distillation of all of that experience and all of the things that I've wanted to say out loud that could fit in 500 pages, and that people can kind of sit down and curl up and read, or they can have by their cooktop and be stirring and having a giggle while they do.
Folks, we're about halfway through, so it feels like a very good time to pause and remind you to go to booktopia.com.au to buy your copy of In Praise of Veg. And if you're sitting there thinking, no, Jamila, but I have a copy of In Praise of Veg, I would ask you, does your mum have a copy? Does your sister have a copy? What's coming up? What kind of holiday, National Friendship Day, National Whatever You Like Day, that you could buy a copy for someone in your life? I bought a good half dozen of these for Christmas for people in my life. Everyone's very impressed. Everyone's very proud. And in your honour, Alice, knowing we were going to have this conversation, last night I had a dinner party in Praise of Veg. We had a holy Alice Zaslavsky dinner party.
What did you have? I need to know.
Okay, folks. We had an amazing mushroom concoction. I'll see if I can do it. Yee.
Oh,
no, hard in the camera.
Yeah.
This beautiful, beautiful mushroom pie was absolutely the star of the whole affair. We also had Hasselbacked parsnips. Alice, please talk the people through why we do not praise the parsnip enough and why it should be backed.
We do not praise the parsnip enough, Rizvi, because we assume that parsnip is just sort of on the woodiness level of carrots, but it's woodier than that. And parsnips tend to be, you know, whilst carrots are still conical, they're a little bit more cylindrical than parsnips are. So you've got that really thick, sort of woody end, and then it gets thin quite quickly. So what happens when you bake parsnips is that the end is still quite woody and just not so tasty, fibrous, and the tip is burnt to a crisp. So hasselbacking, which is where you slice really thin kind of slices into it, not all the way to the end. What happens as it cooks is that it concertinas out. You get the crispy bits on top, and then you get the soft, sweet parsnip meat. Parsnip is so sweet, in fact, that I could not recommend, if you didn't do it last night, Rizvi, the parsnip sticky date pudding in this book.
We did not. We'll have to try
all time. Holy cannoli, it is all time. So that's one that I would totally recommend. Parsnips just, I think people just don't know what to do with it. And chances are, if you grew up with neeps and tatties and, you know, parsnips at home, they were either overboiled or, you know, roasted to a crisp. So this is like giving you the tools. And even, you know, a lot of the hacks and tricks in the book are happy accidents. So the rosemary oil that accompanies, did you do the rosemary oil for the Hasselback parsnips?
Yes, I followed the instructions very carefully. So folks, I had to put sprigs of rosemary in the olive oil into the oven ahead of time, so it kind of infused.
Yes. Yes. So the oil infuses with the rosemary flavor. And the first time that I did it, I had the rosemary in the pan with the parsnips. And obviously, by the time the parsnips were cooked, the rosemary was toast. So I realized, hey, wait, I could infuse it at the start, and then I could use that same rosemary to, you know, chop into almost like a rosemary salt or crumb at the end. And what a great way of, you know, going root to tip, stem to leaf, and using everything that you've got. So the Hasselback parsnips are one of my faves. And I'm so glad. I mean, the not mushroom for error duck fat pastry mushroom pie is just sensational. And what else did you do? So that's parsnips. You got the
okay,
pie.
So they were a win, and I have to say my 5-year-old, who admittedly is a pretty good eater, loved the parsnips, said he wants the carrot potatoes again.
Oh yeah, carrot potato.
It is a carrot potato.
You can Hasselback carrots and potatoes too. So you could do Hasselback veg next time. You could do like Hasselback sweet potato, Hasselback parsnip, carrot, potato. Yum.
Wild. She's wild, folks. Well, for dessert, we had your beetroot brownie. And I bring this up partly because vegetables in desserts seem to split the world into two camps. The side that goes, oh, how good for me. Wonderful. Let's add vegetables to the desserts. And the side that goes, I'm not eating it. Don't give it to me. But these were glorious.
Yeah. There are actually quite a few desserts in this book because vegetables bring something to desserts in the balance of sweet and savory, in the moistness that you get. There's a golden bunt in there, a smug bunt, one would say, that's got golden patty pan squash. That is just such a moist, delicious cake. And that beetroot brownie, again, it's got a Jaffa flavor. It's got a red velvet color. The beetroot is kind of like a harmonious combination with the orange and with the chocolate. And it really is a show-stopping dessert. And actually, I shared the recipe and a video of the recipe with Booktopia. So, you know, hopefully they'll pop a link so that you can go straight to the recipe.
You guys can get a little teeny taste, but a very good taste of this whole by checking out the beetroot brownies. The other one that I loved was it was a combination of halloumi with rhubarb and also cherry tomatoes. And I would never have put those things together. I feel like the sweet and savory together concept, though, is having a real moment in food.
Totally. Oh, absolutely. And a lot of the recipes in here very much are inspired by my time as a restaurant critic and just spending a lot of time in restaurants and with chefs. So that halloumi with rhubarb and cherry tomato is a dish that was inspired by a visit to a restaurant, a regional Victorian restaurant. And I left that meal and I thought, rhubarb. I mean, it's something that we use in crumbles. It's something that we poach for sweets. why not have it as the acidity? Halloumi is a cheese that loves lemon juice, loves some sort of acid. So why not use rhubarb as that acid component? You've got the gorgeous pink color and you've got the cherry tomatoes, which tomatoes are starting to be really sweet and juicy at the moment. So, you know, embrace the sun-kissed, embrace the rhubarb and get yourself some grilled halloumi and you cannot lose. It's yummy.
Can I take you away from the cooking process, Alice, just for a moment and step back a bit to the buying process? Any tips for people who are going out, they've got their copy of In Praise of Veg, booktopia.com.au, folks, if you didn't buy it already. They've got their copy, but they're going shopping. Is this a sense of just going to the local grocery store and picking stuff up? Is there a better way to buy?
The more that you do it, it is like muscle memory. So the more that you shop for fresh produce, the more you know what you're looking for and the better buying you can do. Stuff that's in season will be cheaper, riper, taste better, but you can't always know exactly what's in season. I mean, it's over 2 kilos, this book, so I don't expect you to take it to the shops with you, but there is a seasonal index that you can look at and say, okay, well, I'm in the middle of summer, so I'm going to go to my summer index and I'm going to have a look at that.
If you've just joined in, folks, if you've just joined myself and Alice Zaslavsky, we are having a glorious conversation about food, particularly about vegetables, because Alice has written this new book, Praise of Veg, which is available right now at booktopia.com.au. Alice, I wanted to go back a little bit in the process because we've been talking a lot about cooking. Once people have got their hands on a copy of In Praise of Veg, there's a step in between, and that's the shopping. Can you give us some tips on shopping for fruit and veg? Do we need to be at farmers markets? How do we know what's in season? Is the supermarket okay?
Well, I like to go back to an Alice Waters quote where she says that 80% of the cook is in the shop, and I couldn't agree more. So if you start out with really good seasonal produce that's of a high quality, then you actually don't need to put in as much effort to make it taste good. But you can't always, you know, if you're not the sort of person who prefers a sleep in of a Saturday morning, you don't need to get yourself to a farmer's market or have access to a local producer down the road, you know, a farm gate down the road in order to have high quality produce. And if you need to head down to the supermarket to pick up whatever it is that you need, there is still some really high quality produce there as well. You just need to know what you're looking for. And the more that you shop, the more it's kind of like muscle memory. You learn what to look for. Use all of your senses. Look for bright colors. Look for lank bits. You know, if anything looks a little bit soggy, especially my pet hate, my bugbear is vegetables in plastic when they do not need to be.
They don't have to be in plastic.
Encased. Oh my God. And you can vote with your dollar. So, you know, and vote with your fingers as well. You know, email your local shops or the supermarket and say, hey, I don't need to buy my sweet corn enshrined. You know, there's a thing called a husk, and I'm pretty sure that protects my corn. So all of those sorts of things will definitely make a difference. The book itself does have a seasonal index, so it'll tell you, you know, it's the middle of summer or the end of summer. It's in there.
Clever.
Yeah. It's in there. But what you'll also notice is that I have written it for an Australian audience, and I'm bearing in mind that we have so many different climatic zones that actually stuff that you wouldn't expect to see in the middle of winter or, you know, right now, you'll still be able to find. It might just be more expensive because it's had to come from Queensland or it's had to come from, you know, WA or whatever it is. So if you are looking for an inexpensive option, and if you are happy to just kind of like play Russian roulette with your veg box, start to support a local grower or a community supported agriculture scheme. You can search out your local one. So you can just search your suburb CSA or your suburb produce box or veg box. And there are heaps and heaps more services now because of COVID, you know, another silver lining. Now there's so many different ways that you can support small producers who chances are have, you know, laser vision. They're the ones that are choosing the stuff that's growing, that's at its peak, you know, rather than having to head over to a big supermarket and feeling overwhelmed.
Alice, you talked earlier about trying to make veg the hero of the dish, and that's something that you recommend when you're eating out as well, isn't it? Looking for the vegetable dishes.
All about it. It's a really great mark of a good chef if he knows what he's doing with veg. And when I was writing restaurant reviews, I would always look down the menu and find the veg stuff, and I'd order that because it's much more exciting to eat. But also, and this is something, you know, if you're looking to eat frugally but still enjoy going out, the vegetable dishes are more inexpensive as well. And if you're like me and you like variety, then you can order like 3 vegetable dishes, you know, order all of the starters, all of the entrees, and 1 main to share. And especially if it's, you know, the veggie main or whatever it is, and you'll come out of there at a fraction, so maybe 3/4, if not a half of the bill than you would expect if you were going the traditional protein, and vegetables on the side.
That is a super smart tip. Now, I've given you a bit of sense of my weekend dinner party. And can I just say, making little pastry mushrooms to put on the top of my mushroom pie was A, fun, and B, easy. Easy. And people were delighted by me and my pie. But it's your turn now, my friend. I want you to give me a few suggestions from the book to cook at different points. Now, I understand that this book is a very large baby of yours and that you therefore love all the recipes equally.
Yes.
However,
Yeah.
I'm going to make you pick just a couple of highlights. They don't have to be the best or the favorite. They can just be a couple of highlights. If I was having people around for a beautiful sort of autumn brunch at my house, what kinds of things would I cook up?
Okay, autumn brunch. So autumn time is gorgeous. Anything orange really shines in autumn. So the butternut squash with the buttered nut squash is really great. And if you want to, so that's got like macadamias and olives that you roast or that you fry off with some butter. So it's like a burnt noisette or a burnt butter sauce with a butternut squash that roasts on upside down. And if you want to, you can serve that with some crumbly cheese as well, like some feta. Or you could grate some parmesan over it as well. What I like about that too is because it's a brunch, what you can do is you can then get people to scoop it out almost like a butternut squash spread to put over their toast, right? Or you could even just roast the macadamias with the olives and some garlic in the oven just as a little bit of a little snack if you want. The eggs Florentine are great any time of year because you'll find baby spinach any time of year. And that's really impressive because the hollandaise is bright green. So people will be super impressed. That recipe's also got some really good tips around poaching eggs. So brunch, eggs, easy as. Holy moly, I can't believe I didn't tell you this. The khachapuri, the silver beet khachapuri would be amazing because that's another one that's like cheesy pide or cheesy sort of Georgian cheese bread, and in the middle you can crack an egg and pop that back in the oven and it coddles, so it's still, the egg is still runny, and you use the corners and the cheese to dip the egg. It's
heaven.
Delicious. And that's a very traditional Georgian brunch actually, the khachapuri, with the addition of the silver beet. You can use rainbow chard or you can use spinach, or you can even use beet, the tops of beet leaves as well, the little, like when you get beetroot, you have the blip, you can use the yum.
Okay, how about this one? I have been out to a film with my girlfriends in the late afternoon, and we've eaten, we've had food, but we just want like a little yummy dessert type thing to have with some champagne later in the evening.
Oh, okay, a little bit something. Okay, so champagne, fizzy. I actually think that let me show you that sponge, the bunt. See, and look how easy. I'm just going to find the patty pan squash. It's so freaking easy.
A long-term question of mine, which I shall ask the audience while you find the page. Is it or bunt? I
don't know. What do Lee and Annabelle say? Because I'll go with there. Okay, well, let's go with bunt then for the purpose of this conversation. But I actually do think it's bunt from like the German. So
look at that.
This one, can you see that? So imagine that, like a slice of that with a glass of bubbles. Oof. And because I'm thinking you're going to come back from that film and you're not going to want to cook anything. Let's face it. You want something that's already been pre-prepared, and that cake is still good from the day before. So you could do that like the afternoon of, like the afternoon before, and it's still good the afternoon and the night of.
Okay, I'm going to give you one last challenge, my friend.
Okay.
You go. And that is, I am having friends for dinner and I need to impress them. I want something fancy. I want them to go home saying that I'm the best home cook they've ever met. I want them to go home saying, instead of Nigella Lawson, Alice Zaslavsky, the force of nature, I want them to say, Jamila Rizvi, she's a force of nature.
Didn't you do that last night with your mushrooms and
a little bit.
And your beetroot, the choc beetroot brownie, like as far as, so that and the sticky date, to me, are all-time desserts. They're the sort of things that people will be talking about long after you're gone, and long after they're gone from your house. The jewel box no-bake beet salad, as far as like effort to return, is wow. The Katayifi pastry fuzzy basil cheese sticks, again, another one that's like so easy to do. I think I'm just thinking about stuff that is not so hard to make, because I actually think when you cook for people that are coming around, there's an added level of pressure that makes exactly, and you get tempted to make stuff that's harder than you need it to be. And that's actually advice from Nigella, I think. She says, when people come around, don't try and make something new, make something really familiar and homely. So, I'm thinking the lemongrass fish pops, they go down a treat. Wow, I'm like going,
glorious
Sichuan eggplant, yum. Okay, what have you found? What are you thinking?
A glorious list. You've given us a glorious list. One of the ones that I got excited about, now I'm going to struggle to find it, that I got excited about the other night when I was cooking for people.
Look for the colour. Look for the colour.
Double denim mac and cheese. It's macaroni, folks, with cheese, but it's also got cauliflower and it's got asparagus, and the cheese is like a Gruyere. Sounds good. That
is not even like, don't wait until you've got people around, Rizvi. Make that for your fam bam. That is yummy and so easy, and it just feels like the sort of dish that is going to be in your repertoire monthly, if not, fortnightly, because it's so yum. And you can do it, even if you don't have macaroni, you can do it with other pasta shapes, and your son is going to be like, make that cheese.
I want that one again. I want that again.
Yeah, cauliflower and cheese are very good friends.
At the moment, he's all about the potato carrot, but I'll see if I can try and tempt him with something else. Alice, I want to ask a final question before we wrap up.
Okay.
This book is all about taste and smells. How do you want people to feel after they've cooked something or eaten something from In Praise of Veg?
I want them to feel uplifted. I want them to feel inspired. I want them to feel surprised, delighted, and I want them to feel connected, I think, as a family. That quiet that you get when you're eating something together, but no one has to talk because it's just like, this is so delicious, I can't even. I want them to feel valid, I suppose. I want them to feel valued. I want them to feel like what it is that they've just put effort into has been received with love and joy and enthusiasm at the table. And I want them to feel empowered to come back into the book the next night and do it all again.
Alice, congratulations. Folks at home, the book is In Praise of Veg, and it is a modern kitchen companion by Alice Zaslavsky, who you have just been hearing from over the last half hour. Congratulations. This is a work of art and a work of a lifetime, because honestly, this is just an enormous book, and it is chock-a-block full of beautiful, delicious recipes. You can open any page and get excited about eating vegetables and sharing those dishes with the people you love most in the world. If you don't have a copy already, you want to head to booktopia.com.au. If you do have a copy already, get another one, booktopia.com.au. My name's Jamila Rizvi. This is Alice Zaslavsky, and it's been our pleasure having your company tonight. Bye.
Bye.